Hello everybody, very welcome to this video. This is Tapping Ireland. I just wanted to do a few videos just to explain kind of what emotional freedom technique is and how it's beneficial. Okay, so I'm actually in the process of writing a chapter for my new book, so I'm going to read a little bit of it from emotional freedom section. So many people in the Western world have unruly emotions. This is seen as normal even though from a more advanced viewpoint it is clearly not healthy. Think of all the crimes that were committed by people that are in a rage. Think of all the suicides by people who are overwhelmed by emotions and darkness. Think of all those who use alcohol or drugs to self-medicate because of their inner turmoil. Think of all of societal problems in the Western world like alcoholism, violence, drug abuse, crime, etc. Our prisons are filled with people who committed their crimes because they were out of mental and emotional control. The whole of the Western world needs to embody a new level of understanding when it comes to mental and emotional management. Children and teenagers need to be instructed on how to manage their inner selves so that they can function well in a modern world. As a society, this is our next evolutionary step. So that kind of gives an idea of kind of where I'm going with this. This is not new by any means. This is just a re-emergence of an understanding. Even in the old days, the Irish days of the Druids, the bards, a person had a responsibility to look after themselves individually. We become so dependent on going to other people to fix us medically and otherwise in this modern world. Because we're so busy, our mind is so very, very busy, that we don't know in the Western world that there are techniques that you can use for yourself for better mental and emotional equilibrium, let's say, balance, harmony within yourself. So I go on to just talk a little bit about, so just to go into that section. Some people think, it's better just to carry on and do the best you can and, struggle on. And the whole purpose of true spiritual practices and meditational practices is that there was a recognition. This is not something new. There has been a recognition on this world for a long, long time that people, human beings, have struggle in many ways, and that are unnecessary. Mental and emotional anxiety in many cases or unruly or reckless mind, as the Zen teachers talk. It's a product of society. It's part of our nature in a sense. It's part of something we experience as we grow. But in a functional society, when a person in the past, or particularly in the East, was exhibiting certain mental and emotional behavioural patterns, they would be shown the techniques to come more into peace and alignment within themselves, back to their natural state. Our natural state is a state of peace and contentment. So this is something that's really neglected in the modern world, Western world in particular. It's not about mental and emotional control. It's not about becoming a zombie. You still feel sad, you still feel angry, you still feel stressed, but you don't get overwhelmed. And people who slip into depression and different disorders like that, they're overwhelmed by an avalanche or a snowballing effect of something that becomes overwhelming. We use words like what got into that person. Something has overcome that person, and our mind is very powerful. So with the techniques, just to say, the purpose of so much philosophy, spiritual practices, was because there was a recognition that being a human being is a challenging learning experience, and we most certainly are here to learn and experience certain things. That's part of the journey of life. But we also through, let's say you maintain your physical body through a little bit of exercise here and there. That's good. Everybody needs it. But you also need to exercise mental and emotional control by using certain practices a little bit every day. So you exercise your mind in a healthy way, you exercise your emotions in a healthy way. So that when the challenges of life come along, instead of them overwhelming you and putting you back, setting you back, you can have a greater capacity within yourself to face the challenges of this life. And also with greater mental and emotional management, you're not also creating trouble for yourself in your own head. In other words, you're not dwelling on negative emotions. You're not dwelling on negative thoughts. So this is why, so many of these practices were created. They were put together by, you could say, the universal source, God, enlightened masters or teachers, gurus, who could see clearly what was going on with people and devised these methods and techniques to help people to come back into a state of peace within themselves, which is your natural state. If you're not peaceful and content, or close enough to that a fair bit of the time, that you're in an unnatural state. If you're overstressed, over anxious, over worrying, over emotional, then you've strayed from your own inner peace. And a little bit of practice every day, learning techniques, help you to take yourself from that place of anxiety or stress that life can kind of present you with, to a more content, peaceful inner state within yourself. So I have another little section. So just to say that the first section there really was about, the Eastern world has all these techniques from India, from China, Japan, meditation, Zen, mindfulness, different types of yoga, a whole host of things from Tai Chi, Qigong, and all these things. They all help to cultivate the body-mind balance. Because these are all things from the East. In the Western world, we have our own pros and cons, let's say. But in the Western world, we don't put the same value. We haven't up till now put the same value on mental and emotional control, mental and emotional techniques to, help yourself, self-help techniques. So these are filtering through from the East, and it's very beneficial. So all these people, I'm talking about the prison system, drugs, alcohol, violence and abuse. So much of that is uncontrolled, chaotic mental and emotional states of mind. People are swept into doing terrible things and end up in prison or injured or, in a terrible relationship or, these kind of things as a consequence of not taking the time or not even being instructed or informed that there were techniques to help you have peace of mind. So that's what I'm doing, is bringing these techniques forward, some of the ones I know, but I encourage everybody to find ones that work for them. But if you think about it, it's the lack of mental and emotional control that has triggered so many people in society to do terrible things and to have terrible accidents and commit terrible crimes and to abuse substances and to abuse themselves and others. So it's the awareness of the need for it is the first step. So emotional control. Many people in the Western world have unruly emotions. This is seen as normal, even though from a more advanced point, this is clearly not healthy. So that's what we were talking about in the first section. So this is still unprocessed, so it's kind of rough. What is emotional freedom? Emotional freedom is a necessary step on the road to one's own self-mastery. There is no possibility of growth without emotional control. We in the Western world live in an emotionally driven society. There are people who prey upon the primitive inner fears of mankind. So, governments use the fear of jail and criminality and all this kind of thing to get you to comply with certain things. That's a certain control mechanism. Churches use the fear of hell and all this kind of stuff to control people. Well, they did in the past, some churches, but that's all fading out now. The emotional level is the first level upon the journey of true self-discovery. So, marketeers who are selling something to you, a typical ad I seen a few years ago was a car pulling up to collect kids at school, and the man was driving the car. And it was a nice car, but the whole emphasis on the music and the acting that was done in the advertisement was, if you want to be a cool dad, you buy this car, otherwise you're not cool, because the kids were really proud to get into this new car, or this car was this new model, but it was very subtle. It looked just like a nice visual, but there's also innuendo, emotional innuendo. So there are those who use techniques to manipulate people through emotion, and advertisements. If you can stir someone's emotions, you can maybe make a sale. So, and like I say, certain churches then use the fear and the anxiety and all that kind of stuff for their benefit. So the emotional level is the first level upon the journey of true self-discovery, discovering your own inner peace within yourself, which is your true natural state. Anyone who wishes to advance on this journey needs to use the tools and techniques that can assist in overcoming the bondage of uncontrolled emotions. Like I say, it's not about being an emotional zombie. We still feel the emotions, but we're just not overwhelmed. We recognize when I'm getting really angry or I'm getting really sad and this needs to stop. It's natural to grieve. It's natural to have all these emotions. But there's the time where you go, okay, this soundtrack in my head, these emotions, these thoughts, they're not helping me. I want to pause this now, go into a place of peace. So tapping, emotional freedom technique is a practice I do. I do one-to-one sessions. I help people learn a technique whereby you release stress and anxiety in your body by tapping on acupressure points and using affirmations in a very specific way. The mindfulness techniques as well, also talk to people. I do one-to-one Skype sessions to discuss all these things. But this is just a little video, just an educational video to talk about what I'm endeavouring to do on the Tapping Ireland page. And just to encourage people that there are techniques out there. There are things you can learn for free on YouTube. On my Tapping Ireland or the Irish Celt page on Facebook and YouTube, I have lots of free videos for you to watch. Practices where you can release stress and anxiety. But I just wanted to share some information. You can contact me by message. But that's all for now. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.